You can tell, first meeting of summer, photography club meeting. Attendance is down. Our guest speaker is on her way. We were trying to figure out if we'd take pictures of cookies and say that was food photography. So, let's see.
She's just passing Ellensburg now?
Yeah, she's just almost to Ellensburg. Okay, so, welcome. I almost recognize, I think, everybody. Is anybody here for the first time? No, okay. Oh, okay, first timers, raise your hand. There we go. Hey. Welcome. What is your first names?
Jeff.
Jeff, all right. Welcome, Jeff. Go ahead, and I don't have a clicker. Need to get one of those, just those click, 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 click. So we'll have our announcements, some photo tips from Rick, and then Jackie will do a commercial and editorial food photography and show us some of the stuff she does. And next, our photo walk is going to be June 23rd, so not this Saturday, obviously, but the Cool Desert Nights. Going to meet at 9 o'clock in front of Spud Nuts, or inside of Spud Nuts, or just out of Spud Nuts. And then we can walk and see the cars, take some photos, try to get some interesting shots. So you can see on the next slide, it has some different ideas, and you might keep your eyes open for some ideas. You know, you don't have to take the whole car, even though some of them are cool. Trying to get some up-close personal shots on some of the, doohickeys, I don't know what you call them, on the cars. The different, it's amazing what you can get when you get up close and get a photo. Just an example of that Luann stuff. Sometimes you won't even recognize what it is if you do it right. So,
reflections off the phone is cool.
Yeah, I was looking here to see if I could see a selfie in here, but they did a good job blurring themselves. Okay. Bateman Island is back open again. Jackie, it's been closed due to the fire. If you want to get some wildlife shots, Rick took these two on the left this morning. The deer aren't used to people, so they're not too spooked right now. And then the one on the right is from 2013. So might be a spot we're going to want to do some sunset shots later this year, sunset photo walk. And that'd be a good spot if somebody doesn't burn it down again. So yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. Okay, the Four Cs has a special meeting going. Ray Fortner going to speak at the Eastside Camera Club. All members of the Northwest Council of Camera Clubs. Okay, I guess it's part of the Four Cs. Are invited to attend. If you happen to be in Redmond or just want a long drive, you're invited to go. So.
I just picked one of them that they have. We go on B&H site. Different times list several.
Okay. So yeah, the B&H site has a list of different things that are going on, and definitely keep an eye on that if you're going to be over in that area. And okay. Anybody have any other announcements? Anything they want club related, photography related? Any other announcements that you know of? Anything that's going on in this area? The Hogs and Dogs over in West Richland. Yeah, and then yeah, because I think this is the last year that the Cool Desert Nights is going to be in Richland. They're moving it to West Richland next year. So it'll be interesting. Don't know if anybody got any awards this month. Nobody brought their award-winning photo?
Andy's got her display.
Yeah. Where was it? At the Hermiston. That's right. can remember. So yeah, Andy's got her stuff on display at the Hermiston, and it's solo show, right? So definitely, that's not near as far as Redmond. We can all make a trip down to Hermiston and check that out. So yeah, congratulations on that. That's cool. And the other great places to photograph. We just mentioned Bateman Island is open. Anybody have somewhere they like to go during the summer to take different photographs, different areas? Secret spot that you're willing to share with just us and the internet? Okay, no secrets given out tonight. Okay, well, Bateman Island will be a lot of fun to go trek around. So the yeah, the Pelicans, there's some great shots on the website. People have taken some photos of the Pelicans. The Horn Rapids Dam, if you go out 240 towards Hanford, the back door of Hanford. So it's out that way. So okay. And any questions? Anybody have any? You can definitely tell it's summer started. The meetings. So, but
The brain's on vacation.
the brain's on vacation. All right, next. Camera tips from Rick.
Now go to the next slide. Because this is really about next month. Many of you enjoyed the Norman Rockwell Bring Your Camera and we have stations set up. Well, this is going to be about motion. So next picture, click. So we're going to have some stations set up to where we can have you practice panning. Nobody on bicycles running around, but so just an example. Next slide. So that's person in focus with the background, or we'll have another one to where the background is in focus but the subject is not. Or practice zoom blur, or practice spin blur, or practice abstract blur. So the notion behind all this is, think of what we're doing as we take pictures of family or like the soccer game, or are there some things that we can add into just the snapshot of the action? Can we do something to where we have the person running really fast and the background's blur? So we're going to be able to practice those kinds of things so you can add it to your skill set for photography. So that's next month. So bring your cameras. And I think that is it. That is it. So now we have a little bit of brief setup time, right? Okay, so now we have a quick break to where we set up for our speaker. And Gary's now in the back.
I hope I can get through this without staggering. Is there a pointer for the PowerPoint at all?
Do you have the little laser pointer deal?
If not, it's okay. Yeah, of me, yeah, of me standing in front of that.
Yeah, I'll have this posted. We don't have any internet here.
Yeah, it's okay, I heard.
Anybody happen to have a pointer, a laser pointer, one of those little things? I left one home, sorry.
Okay, yeah, I like that image up there, it's kind of cool, seeing that structure in that water.
Which is on you. Go ahead and say something.
Hello. Okay, that's working. Good job. Okay. And Jay, can you give me the cue when it's break time? Can you give me the cue when it's break time?
Oh, sure. Okay.
Like 7:15? Okay.
Like 7:30.
Is it really? Okay. We're ready?
Ready.
Jerry?
Okay. Okay. Okay.
All right. So we're ready to go. For those that don't know Jackie, and I just know as Sharpe, Sharpe
I got married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
First time at it. Wish me luck.
Yeah. Good luck to the gal and congratulations to the guy.
Thank you.
So, but Jackie's spoke here before, and I'm really excited to see more of what she's doing and some tips and stuff that we can get. So thank you very much for coming, Jackie.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to be back again. Yeah, boy. Okay. Yeah, I was kidding about the being married thing. It's fun. It's just my dad said to me, so I'm 57. I have no problem saying that. My dad said to me, he's like, I never thought, that's his new phrase at 92 years old, I never thought certain things would happen. He says, I never thought you would ever get married. And so I was 55 when I got married, and when he started to make his speech, it was like he just looked at me like, seriously, I really never thought you would do this. So yeah, I'm married to my best friend, so it's all good. Thanks for having me here. I really do appreciate this. Craig, can you get a snapshot? I gotta send it to my folks because they're not here. They've never seen me do a presentation before. So yeah, I'm a professional food photographer, food stylist, and prop stylist. I also do architectural and environmental portraiture work. But my first love has been food photography. And how it all got started was in 2005, I went to Italy. And I went to a little town called Civita. I can't remember the rest, but I went to Orvieto, and I had to get a car to take my luggage to this place that was up in the sky. Literally, I could see clouds around me. And there were 14 people, because I counted them, and one dog. And there was a bed and breakfast up there. I think the building was probably there since, I don't know, the 1700s or something. And I stayed up there, and I went into the kitchen where the chef was preparing his gravy. You can't call it sauce. You just get thrown in prison if you call it, sauce. So I was able to go in his kitchen, which was the size of a closet, New York style. It had one window in it, and I photographed him. And then the thing that sealed the deal with me being interested in doing food photography from this trip was when I sat down at a round table, right, where you could have discussions around with about 6 to 7 other individuals from throughout the world. Half couldn't speak English, but we had the best time for 3 hours drinking lots of Chianti, and had his gravy and his pasta and his sausages, and the way they do French fries, they fry them in olive oil, not regular oil. It was spectacular. Then I had the nerve to say, what's for dessert? And he just went, and he goes and he brings out a cherry tart, and I'm going, wow. So that was the reason I fell in love with doing food photography. And this is a photo of me attending food styling seminar. And this is in, I don't know if you've ever heard of Creative Live. That's one of my big go-to resources for education. You can go to Seattle and sit on a live audience if you're picked. Otherwise, you can pull it in live, and sometimes the courses are very inexpensive. So I had an opportunity to sit in on this session, and you can see this is the final image right here. This is a picnic layout that the instructor came and put together, and I wanted to photograph it. So in order to do this, because I didn't have the camera with the extension arm that would go up that high, I got on a ladder. Someone was supposed to spot me, and they left. So I was really happy I didn't fall off of that thing. Now I'm using a 40 millimeter to do this. So that's the lens that I'm using. And then these are all of the props and food items that it takes to do this type of job. This was all done with natural light. So light's coming in this way with huge, huge windows, but there was a little frost to it, so you had that diffused feeling to it. And that was the final product. So this is really kind of an editorial photograph. So can we go to the next slide? Is that what I tell you, Greg? Okay, next slide. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Greg. You're familiar with all the commercial products here. This, packaging items, that's more on the commercial line. But I do think that people are now diversifying a little bit more, where they're okay with an editorial look to be a professional shoot for a package. It depends upon the client. The Chippehoy one, for example, who knows how long that took, but the stylist is very instrumental in doing this one right here. They probably had 15 to 20 cookies all cut out like that, so they could keep switching them out when they needed to, when one cookie would mess up. And so this is the packaging commercial side of it. Typically, if you're doing commercial photography, you're going to get a better rate. You will probably have a food stylist and a prop stylist, so that's 3 people. And then you will have the hovering team of art directors, what I call stakeholders, art directors, the clients, anybody else who wants to be in the room. You'll have your computer and it'll be tethered, and they will nitpick it. Move this, move that, do this, do that, you know, shape this, shape that, diffuse this, blah, 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 blah. And you have to, so there's a lot more stress involved, in my opinion, with the commercial product work. Moving on to the next one. Editorial. So editorial is going to be more for magazines, newspapers, stock images, art displays. There is less pay in editorial, and that's primarily sort of what I do. There's much less of a budget for a prop stylist and a food stylist. That's the reason why I had to study to be a food stylist, so that I could, you know, work with the client and kind of do it all. So with editorial work, it sort of can be a messy feel to it. You know, it's kind of a very messy. There's no precision here. It's making it more natural, allowing it to be more appetizing, I think, to the eye, to want to eat it. They've used, like with the lemons here, they have more lemons cut out on the side. That just gives it a better look. Also, here it would be considered an editorial, but again, you know, sometimes I don't think there's a real, it could go either way. It depends on the client. What I like about this is it sort of falls in the category of a stock image. Or a really nice art image. I think there's fruit and some sage in there, and I'm not sure what that device is that it's in, but I thought it was very, very cool. Another editorial, and this would be really more for editorial, is this picture here, because there is a person in there with his hands, and he's holding a dish, so that's going to be more editorial feel. And again, the burger up there could go either way, but it's, again, very messy, not precision. It took quite an effort from the food stylist to put that thing together without it falling off. And just to give you a little food styling tip, because sometimes if you decide you want to pursue this, you want to have certain items in your toolbox, I say. That person probably used a very long stick and just mounted things one at a time right on top and had a base at the bottom, you know. Kind of like, I think where did I used to go where they had the onion rings and they put them down on this big stick-like pole and had a base at the bottom? That's probably what they ended up using to do that. And also, you will probably have to do your own styling a little bit, and prop styling as well as food styling. But in a lot of cases, when I do editorial work, for instance, one of my clients was Bookwalter Winery. The chef was in the kitchen doing his thing. I had a table set up. I had 2 lights, plus I had a little natural light coming in. And I timed it where I said, I timed it out. Every 20 minutes, give me a fresh dish. Because what happens is it'll start to wilt. And that's, again, going into the photographer's part of the job. It'll start to wilt and look bad. And I can't often, in this market, for example, or in another market where it's a small business, I can't say prepare me 6 steaks and let me have a hero, you know, and basically kind of what that's referring to is you have all these other steaks that are stand-ins until you can get the lighting just right, and then you bring out the wham bam steak that's like sizzling and popping, boom, boom, boom. It's crisp, it's awesome. Juices are flowing out. Then you photograph it. Well, This is the dilemma being the photographer when you're working with a small business, is that they don't have 6 steaks to just whip up for you to just use over and over again. So yeah, that's kind of the tough part about working with, but we made it work. So anyway, I had a 20-minute time frame of shooting each different thing, and I would have one basic setup, so I didn't have to reconfigure things. Okay, next slide. Is that the one after? Okay, editorial stock. Okay, so this is where you all can make some good money. This is one of my favorite images. It's on Time magazine a couple of years ago. Do you know what it is?
Butter.
It's butter. It's butter. It's crafted by a very good stylist or an artist. And I'm sure they had to do several of them to get it right. Now, I don't know whether Time hired someone to do this or they got it from stock. But I'm pretty sure if they got it from stock, and knowing how much Time magazine, you know, it made a decent amount of change off of it, whoever, you know, some good money off of it. So one of the things that I'm going to venture into down the road is getting very creative with different types of food images and sell them as stock. So if you want to go into this business, one of the things, Adobe has stock images. One of the things I would recommend is there's a class on Creative Live called Stock Photography. I bought this class for $59, and I think you can still get it. And it goes through all of the whole process of becoming a stock photographer, some of the money you can make, the resources you can find. You know, your stock images can go from, you know, $10 to $15 up to, you know, probably $1,000. It depends upon if it's in demand. So that's the trick, is you have to do your research and find out what's in demand for images, for food images, that's not already out there. And you can kind of see for yourself when you go on those stock sites and see what's not there. So I think it's really fun to do. Number one, you're not dealing with a client, so you don't have that pressure on you. Number two, you know, it's residual income over and over and over and over again for the rest of your life, as long as your images are there. One thing to caution is when you, with your contract, say for instance, that job I did at Book Walter, which was a steak, all right. Now, I say, you know what, I'm gonna sell that on stock photography, and I'm gonna say I'll get probably $25 each time somebody uses that steak image. Well, me personally, I have a courtesy towards the client, because they'll pretty much know it's their image, that I let them know, this is the property I'd like to keep, where I will be selling this image over and over and over again. You know, so it's just a nice business practice, in my opinion, to make sure that's clear in your contracts, and not, if it's not in there, even though you own the rights to it, still it could become an issue. So just a courtesy thing, the way I like to do business. So let's go to the next one. Prop stylist. Now the reason I'm talking to you about styling, because you're going, this is photography, this is not styling. It's because there are cases when you will have to do this. If, again, you want to go into this field, or you want to do it as a hobby, or for stock images, it's the same thing. This is only a quarter of what I have at my house in storage for doing this. I have collected, and a stylist can make, prop stylist, 300 or more a day, depending on what market you're in. These are all the various cups I have gotten. 90% of it is at Goodwill. I pay 50 cents here, $1 there. I find anything that I could possibly use, so I've got an outdoor camping set of cups, so I could do a whole camping scene with food. I have these tiny little teacups if I wanted to do a real dainty queen tea, you know, event. I found this smashingly great martini glass that I used on a job I did for Solar Spirits. Have you ever heard of Solar Spirits vodka? Their stuff is really good. They have a coffee vodka now. It's good stuff. They partnered with Barracuda Coffee, I think. Old milk jugs. So again, and then I have all these plates that I've accumulated over the last 5, 6 years. Oh, yeah, chihuahua. And so I use different things. So there might be times when someone says, you know, I need you to come photograph a burger. And what kind of plate do you already have? Well, we don't have any plates that we really like. Well, let me go on my resource list here. Oh, that looks good for a burger plate, or that looks good for a burger plate. So having that diverse props is good. This one right here, sort of gold, I did a shot where it was sort of a Henry VIII. So I found that, and then I found, crazy enough, I found a long spoon and fork and knife to go with this. And I had sort of almost raw meat. There was nothing fancy about it because back then they didn't use a lot of spices and sauces and things. This was such a plain shoot. It was just like back in the day, what they would have eaten. So I did a shoot for that. So again, this would be what the prop stylist would do. But if you don't have the money for it, then you've got to do it yourself. Next slide. Food stylist. This was, I studied with a lady, her name is Dolores Custer. She's out of New York City. She moved to Portland, and she has been doing food styling for 30 years. She's retired now. So she offers classes in her Portland home. She is brilliant. She has published a book this thick of all of her years in training on being a food stylist. Now, again, why am I saying this? Because there's some times when you probably won't have to do all of this. This was me just being a food stylist, not me doing the photography. I had a photographer who was doing the job. It was, this was a commercial for Sherry's. They have a product called Sherry's Pie Shake. You ever had it? It's good stuff. It's $5.99. It's basically your dessert. So you pick out your pie, slice of it, you add milk, you add a scoop of vanilla ice cream, you blend it, $5.99. There's your dessert. So it was brilliant. I mean, they already had the products there. They just diversified it a little bit. Okay, so the first one here is how you do a grilled hamburger for a shoot. Cook the patty. And then what you do is you take a hot iron where it comes on the stove, you get it really, really hot, like you're gonna brand someone, and you brand the burger, and you make those little grill marks in there. Again, not something, and this is just for, someone once told me, giggles and grins, just to kind of behind the scenes of what goes on and what you end up seeing. So that's how you get the grill look. You don't really put it on a grill. This shoot over here was the one I did for Sherry's, and this whole long table, that whole entire table, for a 15-second spot, 15-second video. This was 8 to 9 hours of my day, and you see the coconuts there? That's how many coconuts I had to use to get one right. I didn't know how to bust open a coconut to get it nice and clean. So I'm sitting over there with a hammer. Forgot, I didn't even get to eat lunch. They're eating and I'm going hammer, 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 hammer. And the director came from California. It's like, you got it yet? Nope, working on it. Not to mention I'm nervous because there's a California director come in, you know, with his fancy shoes and voila, and doing this all day, and I'm going, oh my God, I got one of those creatives. And so I was trying to get the oil, to have an oilier look inside, and he's like, Jackie, are we done yet? I says, not quite. He says, time's money, time's money. I had that to deal with. And then he said, and I was brushing it, he said, use a bigger brush. Okay. Got it. So, you know, you're dealing with all that stuff. So I had strawberries. I went out the day before and I bought a big old container filled with tons of strawberries. I had to pick out about 15 good ones. I had strawberries lined up and down, and I had to go through and pick individual ones that didn't have any, you know, things on it and all that. That's where you're getting into a commercial shoot. You know, where it's not as messy, it's very clean and precise. And I had about 12 pies. also. I had several bananas and I had chocolate chips lined up and down and up and down. It was quite the mess to clean. So that's the world of food styling. I hope you never have to do that much, and if you do, you better charge them out of the yin yang for that. But typically in something like this, they're going to have a photographer, and this is a commercial shoot. Okay, gear. So I don't use any strobes. I don't use any flashes, no speed lights. I have a love of natural light, and I'm very happy with my continuous light or LEDs. I use a Nikon D7000. It is not full frame. And the lenses that I use are the 40, 85, 18 to 250, 284 to 70, and your best bet is going to be, the 2.8. If it goes up, okay, but 2.8. And the reason I only just have these two fixed because sometimes I get really aggravated with this having to go all the way back here as opposed to just standing here and zoom in and out, zoom in and out, and it just gets on my nerves. So I just have a variety of lenses there. And then I have a computer where I tether it to Lightroom so that I can see where I need to make adjustments, and also if the client happens to be there, they can see a bigger screen for me to work with them, and they can say, okay, we want to move this, we want to move that, we want to do this, we want to do, we need less light, more light, darker, et cetera, et cetera. And it is kind of stressful working with directors. Okay. Then the other thing is you want to bring optional background surfaces. And when we go through some of the pictures, you'll see that I have wood boards, I have different color boards, and that's again something that's the responsibility of the photographer. It makes you a lot more marketable, and that you have all this resources at your disposal. But often, sometimes you can ask the client what they have as well that they may prefer to use. When I did the job for Bookwalter, it was a table they already had there. They liked the look of it. Okay, we'll go with what you got. But I brought all of my stuff, so I was prepped and ready. A tripod, which you'll see later, it has an overhead extension rod. Have you seen one of those? So the tripod that I have is a Manfrotto, and I'll say it right. And what it is the tripod rod comes up, out, and you flip a button, it goes, and it's horizontal just like that. So you can get the overhead shot, and that comes in really handy to do that. So this is primarily the gear that I bring with me, plus of course I bring, can I say softbox? Yeah. I also bring my diffusers. I have things that I've gotten from Dollar Tree, shower curtains. They come in really handy. Dollar Tree is the best place to go, I'm not kidding. I use shower curtains to diffuse. Additional items that you would bring, see, my gear is much more, my additional items is much more than this, so I don't want to overwhelm you, but if you're doing something, you want to bring at least these items right here. The tweezers, that's when you want to move something really, really, really tiny, and I kid you not, I have been on a shoot where I had a director and he said, I need you to move that one piece of lettuce. Okay, so I go in with the tweezer, it makes it so much easier. And he said to me, turn it to the left a little bit. All these things really do make a difference, or they're just really picky, I don't know. So I always carry the tweezers, and of course a very good sharp knife. Now the green spritzer bottle is where I use glycerin or what is that syrup? It's Caro syrup, something, and I put an equal mix of that in water and shake it around, and I spray, and if I want to put water droplets on lettuce or tomatoes, the droplets will stick to the tomatoes. So that's another good thing that a photographer needs to know in doing this. Especially, if you have no assistants, you've got to be able to make it work. The item in the easy doughs, I also use those for water droplets. Just go up, plop, 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 and just sticks to it. This right here, I got it from the Dollar Tree. It's like a clay, you know, you just shape it and whatever. I use it to have things stand up. So if I have, if I have a product item and there's a food item next to it that keeps falling down, I take the little rubber piece and I shove it under there and it stands up. So basically, any food that I do, nobody should be eating it. Because my hands have been all over it. And I'll tell you another quick story about food styling before I move on. So you know at Thanksgiving, when you see Bon Appetit, you see the magazines and they have that big turkey on the front. A lot of times that turkey has not been cooked. What happens is, this is not in every case, but to save time and to just kind of push right through it, they'll take a turkey, they will clean it off, go ahead and turn the oven on for about 400 like you're going to bake this turkey. You take paper towels and you shove it inside of the bird to give it some height. Newspaper, whatever you have. You just pack it on in there and gives it some oomph, right? Then you bake it in the oven for, I don't know, 20 minutes. You pull it, so it's still raw. You pull it out. You take a kind of a brown solution. You can use, what is that stuff called? The browning solution. It's got a yellow, okay, all right. So you paint it with a paintbrush on it. And then you just sprinkle some different herbs to give it that feel that, you know, you've baked it and all these herbs are on it. It looks great. It's crispy, crispy, crispy. And then you put it back in the oven for a few more minutes. And you take it out, and that's what you photograph with the paper all in there and everything. So that's what I mean by you don't want to eat anything. So when I was at Book Walter, the wait staff came out, and because I had steaks, I had shrimp, I had crab cakes, and they went to grab and they said, "Oh, are you done photographing? Can I have it?" I says, "You can't eat this. My hands have been all over it. Glycerin has been all over it. You know, a few of the pieces fell on the floor, and I had to put it back up there." Oh, okay. So yeah, don't want to eat that. The other additional items that I bring are, you know, my reflexers, and I use small ones because I don't need really big ones. And I use these clips right here and the one up there to stand them up. And sometimes I just might need about this much, you know, I'm just doing a little reflection, or if I want the gold. So I don't use my big swooping round diffuser that has the different colors in there as well, you know, the gold and the black and the clear. I have all of that. So I just kind of handmade my own and use the items there to work on that. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Any questions so far? You don't want to be a food stylist. Okay. Drumheller's Vine Restaurant. Are you all familiar with the Lodge at Columbia Point?
Yes.
Okay. 2 days ago, they just opened up their restaurant, and it's. I have to honestly tell you, it's very, very good food. The chef graduated from WSU's, one of the first graduates from the hospitality program. She went to Italy and studied, and she came back and became the primary chef for this restaurant. So they're very excited about this. So anyway, before they open, they asked me to come in and do some photography for their dinner meal. And this is you see, this is the board that I brought. And they liked that board. I brought about 4 other boards, and they said, "Oh, we like that board to go with it." And the gentleman in the blue is a chef and a restaurant manager for their other properties in Cannon Beach. And so he came up and he was working with the chef to get things. So he was to me like the art director and very, very, very meticulous about things. So he's the one who's doing the styling. And occasionally I would bring my tweezers in and do my little thing. The other gentleman did the photography for the breakfast, and he was there wrapping up some things, so he was sort of helping them. Now, I don't have my 40 on that camera. I have, I think it's a 18 to 250. So you see what I'm talking about with the rod going up this way, because I'm doing it overhead. Now, I have one continuous light on this side. I wasn't able to have them turn off the distracted other lights going on up there. So you got this orangey thing going on. And then I have somebody behind me who's holding the diffuser. It's a big round one because there's natural light on this other side that's coming through the windows. So he's diffusing a little bit of that for me. I also carry a little LED about this size where I just do a little hint of light. And I think I was using maybe an ISO 400 or maybe a 320 on that. And let's see what I was using for my aperture. I don't remember. Okay. So the final shot is the next shot. Hi, yes.
ISO 400, you had low light? Is that why you did that? Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So when you say use LEDs, what LEDs do you use? Everything is in softbox. How's your fixtures?
Yeah, so I rent LEDs when I need to, and I don't, and it's been a while, so I'll give you my email so you can, because if I can't answer questions right now, I'll get back with you. So I haven't used LEDs. That's just another option I use. But my softbox here is like the 5500K, and I've got the natural light bulbs. I've got about 5 of them in one of these.
Okay.
Yeah, and I typically use 2 of that setup, and then I'll have something over another one that sort of goes over this way. So we'll look at the final image next, Greg.
Do you like shooting down on the food?
I do.
At an angle or
Yeah.
different angles?
I do.
Straight down?
I like shooting over. It's different,
Explain the difference between the angle and the straight overhead. What do you think about it?
Well, the overhead, it's just a different way of looking at the food, and it depends upon the client. The client specifically said he wanted overhead, and I think that's more so that you can see all of this. This is risotto with crab, mushrooms, and I believe that is thyme, maybe. And so he wanted to be able to see the risotto. If I had done it at this angle, you wouldn't be able to. You would see the crab maybe up high, but you wouldn't be able to see the risotto. I also like it because if you're doing it at this not that angle, the other angle, then you've got what's going on in the background. You've got to light for that. You have to come up with a backdrop, and they had so much busy stuff going on in the background, and so it was an agreement that we wanted to do an overshoot. Now, see, again, this is where it's a good idea for you to bring some things with you. I also bring napkins. I have diverse colors of napkins. They like that I brought that. They like that I brought this board right here, and so they place the napkin underneath like that.
That's neat how you did it with just part of the plate.
So composition, which was the next thing I was going to talk about, is you notice this is not centered because you don't always have to have it centered. The client I presented several images. He said, I like the one that's off-centered. So.
Do you do the arrangement of the food on the plate?
Sometimes I do have to serve as the food stylist and the food photographer, but the chef did all of that. So he brought it out, and then they had to bring wipes out to get rid of any excess. I mean, there was serious precision. I mean, they had dribblings of this over here. They took a napkin and went all the way around to get that out. And I really appreciate it because it would have meant more time in Photoshop for me, which I don't like to spend any more time in Photoshop than I have to. And what I did with Photoshop was, I'll go back one, is I sort of helped Lightroom and then Photoshop, and I pulled out some of the green. A little bit. Okay. I pulled out a little bit more of I made the green thyme a little bit better. So, and we'll go to the next slide. Okay, this is also still at the lodge. This is Chef Chef Pauline. Now I'm in her kitchen. I'm using my 40. ISO is 400. And again, I've got the fluorescent over. I can't do anything really about that. They need to keep them on because they're prepping and blah, 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 blah. So what the objective here, the direction I received was we wanted her to have that spoon over the meat and see the drizzle. So I thought, okay. So what I did was I put my camera on continuous. Okay, so I'm getting like 50 shots, and I was like, one of them has to work. Because again, they didn't have 6 or 7 plates of the same thing where we could do it over and over and over again. So that's the challenge there. Let's go to the next shot.
Do you do anything for white balance? You know, you're talking a minute ago about the overhead fluorescent.
Do I set for white balance?
Do you use
I don't use a card.
Use a gray card?
I don't know, I set it sets itself for me, and then I go in and I do post-production. And so this was the final shot that the client ended up picking. I really like this because it really makes the food look appetizing. They wanted to show her hand. So again, this is a really good editorial, but it could go as, you know, commercial. It's not, obviously not product because her hand is in there, but so I like that. I believe that was duck, and it had berries and a certain kind of mustard and a balsamic, I think it was a balsamic berry drizzle. So yeah, that was really good. And I was concerned also that we didn't get a blur effect with her pouring, you know, so I had to have my shutter so that I wouldn't get a blur effect. This is the last image for this. I did some others, but I really liked this one. This was I think this was a different board that was used. I fell in love with this one, I must say, because I like how the meat was cut. Again, horizontal versus frontal there. You see the difference? You're not going to get that if you do it the other way. There's the way Chef cut the meat was very good. I then pulled up some of the red in Photoshop and Lightroom and some of the rosemary. And again, the positioning was how they wanted it to be, and I thought it was really well done. And it was better to have this one centered instead of off to the side. So they also sprinkled they sprinkled salt around us. So they wanted to see the little speckles of salt. I said, do you want me to edit this out? No, we want to see the salt. So I have to question you is, does that look appetizing? Does that make you want to go and eat steak? So that's the reason I got into this business, is because I see how hard chefs work. Because we're going to take a quick break. Okay then. Well, I see how hard chefs work, and their food is, most of the food that I've eaten is phenomenal, and they work so hard, and I wanted to pay respect to them by doing food the proper way. And that's been a challenge sometimes when I talk to restaurants about photographing their food. You know, their marketing dollars and then dealing with an iPhone, and this is what I'm up against. But I hope that when they see this, that they go, you know what, maybe this is worth investing in. And the iPhones are good. They're getting better and better and better. And so I was actually going to talk with you about that a little bit later. So we'll just go ahead and take the break now. It's about 7:30. Okay. Okay.
So how long do you, my nephew is a professional photographer in LA, so he's talked to me about, you know, different types of photography, like in food and the stuff you put on it to make it look appetizing. But how long do you have to take that photo from the time that the steak is
Part of the reason I'm here is that we recently moved, so I don't really know the area. I thought it'd be fun to go most of what I do or have done is either for the last 15 years I've gone down to and media credentials to shoot all the
Yeah, exactly.
Hi, how you doing? I'm talking mid-phone here. I'm finding this fascinating. I would love to work with you sometime. I'm do photography and videos. You got a video shoot. That's right up my alley. And I do continuous light sources, and I do just got a bunch of LEDs. So that's the reason why I'm interested in your LEDs and what you're doing and stuff like that.
Storage,
Okay.
minimal devices.
I was interested in your one with the because the commercial, 15-second commercial. I made TV commercials for 35 years, so I'm a commercial producer. Yeah. So, I find this. Many years ago, I did a lot of stuff. I was in college. I was trying to do some commercial stuff, and way back when Calumet was in all stuff, all sorts of stuff. They had those
There you go.
money square ice cubes out of acrylic and all the things we're talking about, the tricks and props and stuff like that. I have a lot of trouble with the food when it comes to the restaurant. You just don't plan it out very well. It's kind of like, okay, I got a table. Okay, here's the food. Okay, well, I really didn't know it was coming yet. Let me tell you, I'm ready. And then there's nothing, when you come up with it, it's like, it's restaurant salt and pepper shakers. It's, I want something pretty. And I didn't bring any props for this, So it's tough sometimes to fill up enough for you to do that. I find that difficult, around the restaurant. Yeah.
I had a question about something you mentioned when you said you let customers know that you may stock
nephew was a stock. But when you do one of these gigs, who owns the photo? I know I'm not a trial lawyer. I'm not retired, but so I've got some familiarity with. Normally, if we would hire somebody to do something like that, we would have an agreement, and the artist would agree that it was the work product of. I was just interested in your comment. Do you encounter that, or how do you deal with that? Sure.
So I'm on this
So it's their image. If you're hired to do it, is it their image? So it's unless otherwise stated, it's even though they're paying for it.
You're licensing them to use it. They always have a use right, and it's an implied use. The client always had it because they hired you. It's a use right, but you still own the copyright. They can use it
Unless you agree otherwise.
and I don't know what that means exactly. The work for hire change. I suppose it's like, well, if you hired me, and then I did the photograph. You art directed, and I did the photograph just because I'm tired of things and stuff like that. Now I did not do the photograph. I don't have a copyright. She does.
Well, I'm familiar with the concept in the business standpoint. I'm familiar with it in a business standpoint, not the artistic standpoint. If I hire somebody to do a contract, an agreement, or I hire somebody, let's say I've got a business and I hire a professional to help me come up with a business concept, business plan, something like that, then I'm paying them to do that. That's work for hire. I own that, not that person. But that's why I was asking the question. Apparently it's a little bit different if we're talking about works of art, sculpture, Sure. Yeah. Oh, I understood that entirely. I just didn't know who actually owned the image and who answered the So the photographer owns it, and even though they're being paid to create it, and the client has to use it. Sure. No, I'm sure you know. I think your issue is in the contract.
Saying the obvious. And that's the problem. It's
You got a new label coming out, right? New label for your wine?
Mm-hmm. It's out.
Oh, yeah. Okay, awesome.
John needs to come out. Taste it before it's gone. You say didn't make too much of it.
ahead and have a seat. Keep going.
Okay.
Everybody had a cookie, so they're not going to get quite so hungry. Go ahead.
I can tell you a little bit about that.
Okay, so we'll go to the next one. AJ Edible Art. They're in Pasco. And they have a really great product that I love dearly. They use the Walla Walla onions and make their mustards and their horseradishes and sauce, and it's really good. But they also have a very popular item called the cheese ball mix. It flies off the shelf. They've had this for quite a long time. This is a before, and they asked me to come in and redo the look. So I tried a couple of ways, and then I had the client come in and pitch her ideas. So this is what we came up with. Huge difference. This was done probably, I think, 1980s, something like that. And this is what it looks now. So again, what she wanted, the direction was she wanted a lot more color with the vegetables that are in the mix. To give you a better feel of these are the items that are in the mix. You basically use, I think it's sour cream and something else. With the mix, you form the ball, and you see how this looks like the chia pet? And this is an Italian parsley. So that's a little bit better than the regular parsley, and that came from her suggestion. So a lot of times it's really great working with the client right there on set. Sometimes I do this at home, and they're like, okay, Jackie, do whatever you want. So I like this much better because it does, it makes it feel like it's a lot more wholesome. It's fresh vegetables in there. Now you see the little droplets on the tomato, if you can see it. That's where I use the spritzer with the combination of the 50-50 mix, so they would stick on there and not run down. And then I just went into Photoshop and I popped up the colors, brought the colors up more. This is, oh, it was like the glycerin and the water, or the caro syrup and water. And this is one of the boards that I own that I brought, and we had a basket in the back with the fruit, with the vegetables coming out. So. Okay, we'll go to the next one. Now, just so you know, the one that you just saw, that was with 2 of those continuous lights. The room was completely dark. Thank goodness I didn't have any things going on, and I just used those 2 lights. And I had them in really, really, really close. You could barely even get the camera in. And I also had the reflector, the tinfoil. I have tinfoil on a board reflected up there. This is a job I did for Tommy's Tap House. It's over there in Richland. And I worked with a designer, Sarah Nelson Designs, and she asked me to do the photography for this job. And what she did was she gave me pictures. This is basically what I want it to look like. So that was great direction. And then what she did in Photoshop herself, after I was done with it, she put the emblem logo of the company on the beer. This first one was completely natural light. I had the couple in the back sitting there like they were toasting, and the 2 beers there. This she wanted right there where the different beers were in the background. There's one that's not up there where I had to pour beer, and again, you know, with the shutter speed, I had to make sure it was crisp and not blurry. Let's see. And what speed did you use for that? I don't remember which shutter speed I did. Yeah, on that one. And then, of course, the last one was the burger, and it was messy. And I didn't style that. That's the way they did it. I couldn't do a whole lot with it. And they wanted 2 people in the background, so I selected the 2 that had, there's some actors, you know, step-in actors. I like the colors of the blue and the pink in the background, not too distracting, and the emphasis on the beer and the burger. That again was with 2 continuous lights. So I think this was the only one that was completely natural light coming from the window. This is another before and after. Roasters Coffee, I think they're still doing this, sell sandwiches. And this is what they were showing before for people on a display for people to purchase the sandwiches. And I said, no, we won't be having that. So this is where I was both photographer and stylist. I used natural light completely on this one, and what I did was I took the exact amount of meat and vegetables that come in it that were already smashed together, and then I took them and I puffed them up somehow with some things that I don't know what I used, and to make it look like a nice thick sandwich instead of a smashed sandwich. And then of course I brought my own cutting board. I put a cookie there because they sell cookies and the coffee in the background. That's much better look, I think, don't you? Yeah, I think so too. That does not make me want to buy anything. Mama Two's. Mama Two's, Mama Two's, Mama Two's. They make the greatest spice. You can get them at Yolks. Advertising plug. This is what I used here. I used my 40. And what Mickey wanted was not just the product, he wanted to see some of the background, and they're going on with, again, some of the spices that are used that are in there. And so my setup was I had natural light coming on this way, I had a light on top, and then I had a continuous light to the left. And I found one of these wood boards over at Hobby Lobby. And I bought one of those so we could have that kind of old-fashioned look. He's from Alabama. And so, and the cast iron skillet, just wanted that homely feel back south. And that's what we came up with. Beverages. That's for another discussion because there's a real art to doing beverages. That's a lot of work. So remember when I talked to you about in the beginning of Food Stylist? And one of the things, you see that yellow swirl of lemon? So the way you do that is you peel off the whole lemon and you just put that whole piece of lemon skin out and you just sort of hold it down. Then you take a knife and you just make thin, long, about 1/8 of an inch strips of that, and then you swirl it around a straw. You swirl it around a straw and you put a pin in both sides to keep it together. Wish I had this to show you. You keep it there for about 20 minutes and it comes all twirly like that. And you can put it on top of your glass. Now, these are fake ice cubes. These run about 40 bucks a cube. Yeah, buddy. So, and then there's a little spritz going on with this glass right here. And what I do is, so there's no spritz up at the top, I cover that with tape. Because theoretically, when you think about this, right, why would you have, droplets of water at the top when the ice is down here making it chilled? So you have to still, think like you are, how a beverage would really be. This is supposed to be tea. So what we've got going on here is that reflective gold in the back that really kind of highlights it to make it look like tea. Okay. I don't have the after shot, that's showing you how it's done. And then you go in and then you strip all that away, or you can cut the shape of it and stick it behind you. And that again is a photographer's responsibility. If you don't have a stylist, you just gotta come with some stuff. This bottle of wine drove me insane. I photographed it with 2 lights, and the problem with doing wine bottles is this will come out too light, this will come out too dark. You're missing half of the name because of this whole lighting thing. So lighting bottles, and I know Jay, you know this very well because you've done photography for your son and your son and Shay's business. Yeah. And doing wine bottles is it's hard. You've got to really spend a lot of time playing around with that. And the thing is, if you could just take the setup and keep it there full time, and every time a client comes in, you just put it right there, snap, 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 it would be great, but you can't do that. You can just make notes of how to do it. But then again, you also have to think about whether you have a reflective label, a solid label, and then of course you have labels that are on the back that you can see through the front, and what do you do with there? So there's a lot of different options. But I must have spent 4 hours on this one bottle.
On the upper, above the label, why'd you do the lighting on that? It's dark light, dark light.
Oh, that. I have no idea, because I don't know if I want to do it anymore. That's why.
So you did this in your studio?
Yeah, I did it in my studio at home. I had all of the lights off in the house, in the room, and I had my, I used LEDs for this one, and then one overhead. But again, the bear was the label. I was missing half of the name, because just maneuvering all the light.
Those verticals up above reminds me of when we were taking pictures of, before a glass of wine, wine would be up in that house. But in the glass looks like a round glass, right? But in the camera, after you bring it up in full screen or print it, you see like it's almost like little flat spots all the way around. Just the way it was molded or whatever.
Yeah.
It brought out stuff that was quite surprising.
Okay, so next slide. So I talked in the last couple slides earlier about the natural light. All of these were done with natural light. And going back to when I talked about editorial, the gentleman's hand with the peas, that's a good editorial shot. That could be a stock photo. The pizza, you can't really see it, but I timed it where it was coming right out of the oven. It was an outdoor oven where you could see the steam. And by the way, I'm not going to tell you the other way that I get steam because this is okay. Anyway, as a food stylist, there are different ways that you can make soup have steam and have steam come off of that. But okay, so you can use.
Come on.
Really? Is it okay? All right. Close your ears, ladies. No, keep them open. Okay. So you can use hot tea bags, but the thing that has worked the most for me is tampons. Yeah, I know, call it crazy, but I learned this in a professional class, okay? Yeah, you put the, okay guys, anyway, so you put it in there and you put it in a microwave with hot water and it holds the steam. And you put it behind your image, it holds the steam for much longer. And you see the steam going on. So if you want to edit that out, Greg, so be it. But I just telling you guys, as a photographer, if you're called to do a shoot and you need steam, you kind of need to know about this. If you have a stylist, she should be doing it or he should be doing it. If not, you've got to make it work. And so there's a lot of things that you don't think about that could serve your purpose. That just happens to be one of them. And you should have seen it when I did a styling job for Big Hero in Portland, Oregon for sub sandwiches, and they had soup. And I went in the kitchen with that thing and I put it in hot water and they looked at me like, what are you doing with that? I said, don't ask, just go with it. I come back out, we have steam going for a longer period of time in the soup. It worked. I find all sorts of gadgets and things at home to make things work too. I rig things together, yeah. Again, this was natural light, this was Book Walter. This is, do you know what this is?
Fried avocado.
It's fried avocado. Have you had it, Greg?
Yes, it's delicious.
Yep. So, yeah, and actually I didn't have to do any styling. I thought spot on. It's fantastic. And then of course, you know, the pizza as well. Next slide. So artificial and natural light again. This was artificial. This was an experiment. I was playing around to do stock images. Do you know how I was able to get the lemons to look like, does it look like I took these in 2 different images and put them together? Or is there a way you think I could have actually done the one shot with the whole thing? Fishing. Gosh, man, you guys are so smart. Yeah, it's a fishing line, and it's hanging. And I thought, I'm feeling a stock image here, you know? So if you play around with cool things like that, you know, you'd be amazed that the stock companies will be like, yeah, I'll take it, and I'll sell it for you. Again, another editorial one where we have the hands with the coffee beans. That's a really good shot. That could be a stock shot as well. And styling with the berries up there as well. That was a cool deal. Okay, next shot. Do we have one more? Next shot. No, questions. So this is Franco. Hello, Franco. He was a gentleman that I told you about where I photographed him in his kitchen in Italy making his gravy. And I kid you not, the man's kitchen was the size of a closet. And he had a window that didn't have a screen on it. And all of everything he had was like old as Methuselah. I mean, it was just like old. But the food was phenomenal. It was just phenomenal. So it's been a pleasure, besides my little comment. But that's just letting you know that you rig things, you come up with different things to make it work. You have to be very creative.
Jackie, when you are preparing a photo for the stock photography, do they want a certain size, or maybe different sizes for different things?
Right, yes. I haven't done this yet. This is something I'm going to be pursuing within the next year once I get enough of a portfolio. But from what I understand is that you need it in, you obviously want to protect yourself. I can't tell you that enough. You want to put a watermark stamp on your work. This is whether you do stock or not. And keep it at a very low resolution because so people won't steal it. And then once they purchase that image, then you give them the high resolution image, you know, whether it's a CMYK or whether it's a high res JPEG, if it's for print purposes, if it's for web purposes, and they can buy it for a certain usage time, and they'll have to buy it again. So it might be you can use it for a week or a month, and then you can't use it anymore, you know.
So when you send it up to the people who do the stock photography, sell it, it's a low resolution.
Yeah, and again, I haven't gotten into doing this yet, but all of my research has pointed me to this type of information. That's one of the reasons I put in there, go to creativelive.com and buy that course. It may be 50 or 60 bucks, but it is worth it because this is a gentleman who has been doing it for a long time, and he knows the reputable places to submit your work. He knows about the business, and yeah, so and then he'll tell you everything you need to know about getting your stock images up. The other thing I was going to tell you regarding using your cell phones, and if you want to go out there and take food as a hobby, and you want to get into all of this stuff here, because it's very common for me every time I eat out at a unique restaurant, I bring the cell phone, and the first thing I do before I eat is I take the picture. I'm a real foodie. And then I go through the process of tasting it and going, is it too salty? I feel like I'm a food critic. And I'm only using natural light. I don't use the built-in flash at all. You know, I usually eat outdoors most of the time if I can find a restaurant and do that. And so the only tip I can tell you is, you know, have the light pointing in the direction towards the food and not really away, and you can get a really nice image that way. So are there any other questions about food photography?
Where'd you say you learned this at?
The photography part?
The food photography?
Oh, I just self-taught. because I had a passion for it. I feel like when you really love the type of photography you do, it's easier to teach yourself. I've taken a lot of Creative Live courses. I've been on up there in Seattle on set with them, and YouTube. And one of the things I'd like to do one day is actually maybe intern with more of a high-end food photographer. Andrew Scrivani is in New York, and he's probably one of the best. He was a former school teacher, and he decided to get into food photography. Yeah. So, yeah. Any other questions? Okay, well, I'm at JackieSharpeImages.com. My email is on there, so if you have any questions you want to ask me, feel free to reach out, and I appreciate your time and being here to listen to this. Okay? Thank you.
Jackie. More hungry.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the 23rd, we have the photo walk. Should be a lot of fun with the cars there. Meet in front of the Spudman shop. So that